everybody. Today we're canning butter. Canning butter for shelf-stable, long-term food preservation. No refrigeration. Maybe you're not a canner, but it sounds interesting. Watch this. We're gonna can butter and it's gonna be shelf-stable for up to 5 years, maybe even longer. Welcome back to the subs. You guys are awesome. If you're new here, we provide you weekly tips. Be sure to hit the notification bell if you guys would like to stay up to date. Let's jump into this. Okay, so we're canning butter today, which to me is a lifesaver. Right now we're dealing with bird flu, poultry shortages, egg shortages, agricultural ruin this year for the farmers. So all this kind of stuff is going crazy high in price. A lot of places are seeing double the price. So being able to buy it now, buy it on sale, and can it for up to 5 years only does you favors. You don't have to rely on a store having it. You don't have to rely on it being the right price. You can buy as much as you want, stock it up for 5 years, and that's doing a lot of things. It's giving you security that it's there, that it will be there for you for 5 years, and it's gonna most likely make you happy because you bought it at a way lower price than what it's gonna be in 5 years. So let's get into this. These canning videos, there's a lot of information. I'm trying my hardest to chop them down, make them as short as possible, but you guys are getting a lot of good information, so you can't chance. We're preserving food long term. Can't mess that up. Okay, so let's go through some of the things that we're gonna need. We're gonna need lids, we're gonna need rims, we're gonna need jars. We're using the pint-sized jars with the wide mouth today. We're gonna need a lot of butter. This is the kind of butter we like to use. You can use whatever kind of butter you want, unsalted, salted, it doesn't matter. You're gonna need a stock pot to soften your butter in. You're gonna need your pressure canner. Our pressure canner is an All-American, model number 921. If you're new to canning, thinking about getting a canner, I'll leave a link to the All-American canner down there in the description below. Also, I'll leave a link to our favorite Presto canner. We're gonna need some vinegar for 2 different reasons. Okay, so the first step we're gonna do, I've had this sitting out for a little while now just to kind of soften it up, bring it to room temperature. I'm gonna start warming up the pot on ultra low. You can't go too hot with this, otherwise you're gonna burn your butter. So this process takes a little bit longer. You gotta baby the butter, get it all melted, get it to a simmer. Okay, so we're starting with 6.5 pounds of butter. Again, you're gonna have to remember to keep stirring this. You don't want it to get too hot in one spot. We're trying to evenly melt this. Don't want your butter to burn. Okay, so we're gonna fill this up with about 2 to 3 inches of tap hot water. We got 2 inches in here. Now we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. What that's gonna do is keep the water marks and the mineral spots off your jars and lids. All right, so we've got the butter completely melted and it's just coming to a simmer here real quick. Okay, as far as your jars go, you can heat up your oven to like 225, warm up your jars, your clean jars, because we're gonna be putting in some simmered butter, which is hot. I'm gonna turn this on low to get that water heating up, get everything heating up. Now, when it comes to canning, you're gonna can everything a little bit different. You're gonna have to refer to a canning book or an online site. In the description below, I will leave a link to a canning book that we use and also to a website that's awesome. Okay, so oftentimes you can get just a little canning set. I'll leave a picture here for you. It's gonna have everything that you need. It's gonna have one of these little spatula sticks that have a measuring device on the end. It's gonna have your funnel, super good to have, and your jar grabber. It's also gonna have a little magnet lid picker-upper. Okay, so our butter is just about at a simmer. It's melted. Some people bring it to a rolling boil, scoop off the foam. It's not necessary. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do an inch of head space, which is this mark right here. So it's gonna be a solid inch below the top of the rim, which is below the bottom line. Little clarification there. A lot of times there'll be a rim in the middle of these, and that'll be your 1-inch line as well. Okay, so when you're using the pint-sized jars with the wide mouth, you're only gonna fit 8 on one single row in this particular canner. Okay, so these guys are ready for clean lids. Okay, and then we're gonna recycle some lids. Now, it's really important for you to check the rims. You wanna check the rims of your lids as well to make sure that they didn't get dented when they're being stacked at the store. A lot of times those dents can be the cause of a failure inside your canner, and then you just have leakage that you need to clean up, and then you've got one canned, then you have one canned jar that doesn't seal. So it's worth looking them over. Okay, so when you're tightening these up, finger tight. That means don't grip it like I've done before. You just finger tight it and move on to the next one, just like so. Okay, so that's what one row looks like with the wide mouth. We get 8 down there. They are ready to go. This is about how much butter you have left over. With 6.5 pounds, you have just enough to do about 8.5 jars. On an All-American canner, they don't have rubber gaskets, so what you do is you put a little bit of oil up around the rim, and that keeps it from sticking. Next thing you're gonna do is put on your lid. These lines line up right there, and then it swivels over. All of these toggles are gonna come up. You wanna look at it, make sure it's somewhat level, and then you wanna do opposite sides on tightening them down. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and then go around, snug it up. That way it seats down nice and even. And now what we're gonna do is turn this thing up on high, get that thing steaming. We want this little port to be steaming out steam for 10 minutes before we start the timer and put on our weight. This is what you want for 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes, so now we can put on our weighted gauge. We are above 1,000 feet elevation, so we're gonna go with a 15. Gonna put it on just like that. You're gonna wait for it to rattle consistently before you start adjusting your dial down. So as for our cooking time, we're running pints. We're gonna run it for 75 minutes. When you're doing butter, it's a fat. You treat it just like meat. All right, everyone, we got our little weight rattling away. So we have reached our pressure. So we're gonna take this, turn this down. Now, once you get 1 or 2 times under your belt, you're gonna know just about right where to put your dial. Like, you're gonna have a sweet spot. It's gonna get easier and easier every time you do it. So now we're gonna let this calm back down. We're gonna go ahead and start our timer right now for 75 minutes. While we're over here messing with our dial to get it perfectly, so that we've got this thing doing a little rattle session about 1 to 4 times a minute. It's gonna pause like this, and this little rattle segment is gonna look a lot like this. Just like that. So it's still pretty warm, so it's gonna calm down here since I just lowered the heat, and it's gonna do this little rattle session that lasts only a few seconds each time, under 10 seconds typically, and you're gonna want 1 to 4 of these a minute on this type of canner. The other option is to follow your dial, which other canners have, and you'll go by the dial. All right, everyone, our 75-minute timer went off. So what we're gonna do now is turn this all the way off, not touch a thing. Everything needs to cool. This gauge needs to go all the way to the 0 before we can take this off or remove the top. Okay, everyone, you can see that the pressure's all the way down. Again, when you take off this little weighted gauge, you wanna open it up away from you. Kind of scary. That thing's still hot. So you can hear it sizzling out. It's pretty much done. You're gonna take this off the same way you put it on. So you're gonna go this side, opposites. Now there's gonna be a lot of steam in here. So when you open this up, you need to open it up away from yourself. So remember, a little half turn, and you're gonna open it up away from yourself. See all that steam? You don't wanna get all that steam in your face. You can hear them in there, click, click, click. So now we're gonna let this cool down a little bit more before we take these jars out. All right, so I let these acclimate for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and grab them now, pull them out, put them over here. Because the next step takes a little while. Looking good. So you can see there's still like about 1.5 inches of water. So we only went down about 1/2 inch of water with all of that. That's why I like using about 2 inches when we're dealing with these smaller jars. Any more water than that, it's coming up way too high on the jar. You don't want to submerge your jar or have it up around the rim. Can you believe it, guys? We're gonna have butter, 6 pounds of butter that we can store for 5 years. Truly amazing. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna let them cool just a little bit more to where we can touch them. Right now I can touch the rim, but the glass is extremely hot. So we're gonna let these cool down, and then we're gonna come and do the next step. Okay, so another tip on cooling these quicker is separate them more. Once they start cooling down, separate them so it doesn't have the heat from the other jar right next to it. Okay, so this part takes almost as long as the canning. You have to come by every once in a while and shake up the solids that settle at the bottom of the jar and just shake them up. That one's done. It starts off looking like this. Give it a couple shakes. Then it looks like that, and you put it back down. Now, a lot of people, they'll just water bath these and not put them in a pressure canner. Doing it that way, they'll seal up just the same, but it's only gonna last you about 6 months, probably a year max. Doing it with a pressure canner is not only safer and protecting you against botulism, you're gonna be able to get an easy 5 years out of it. Remember, keep them in a cool, dark, clean place. That'll ensure they last the longest. This is how you make shelf-stable butter. I mean, if you don't can, have you ever thought about keeping butter not in the refrigerator? This is the way you do it. And if you're watching us and you're a pro canner, be sure to add some tips down there in the comments below. I'm always learning something from you guys that have got a lot of years on me. So this butter is gonna be able to store without refrigeration, and you're gonna be able to use this butter for anything that you would normally use butter for. Remember, when you do pop into one of these things, once you open it, you're gonna treat it just like butter you bought from the store. You're gonna keep it in the fridge and use it up. Remember, if you open it up, it doesn't look right, or it doesn't smell right, don't use it. It's not worth it. Oftentimes, it means something went wrong. And it might not have been your fault. It could have been a faulty seal. It could have been a dent in a rim that you missed. You never know. But what you do know is when it's off, don't use it. Okay, so now that these are room temperature, you can safely put them in the refrigerator so you can speed this process up. What you're gonna do is check on it every 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. You're gonna pull them all out of the refrigerator, give them a quick shake, put them back in there. You wanna keep those solids at the bottom mixed in to the best of your ability. You might not get it perfect, but the more you can keep shaking those until it gets solid, that's the idea. And that's it, guys. That's how you pressure can butter to make it shelf stable for up to 5 years with no refrigeration. Once these have all solidified, I'm gonna take them down, put them with the rest of our canning stuff on our shelves, and we'll be good to go with 6 pounds of butter that we don't have to keep refrigerated. Please share this video with people that like learning this kind of stuff. Let me know how you guys liked it down in the comments below. If you don't can, I hope you start because it's super smart and there's no better time than to start now. With food shortages and the prices of food going up with the hyperinflation, buying in bulk now and stockpiling up what you need for the upcoming months is super important. Again, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.